So the next session is not a fireside, but it's going to be a keynote from someone who traveled all the way from Istanbul to Cluj. Deniz Tuncalp.
I have no microphone. Maybe I can use this one, right? Okay.
Is it okay if you use this one?
Yeah.
Or maybe you can help me with this one?
I can use this one, no problem.
So Deniz, so you see it. Deniz, you're an associate professor at of management and entrepreneurship at the Istanbul Technical University.
Yep.
Before that, you've been in corporates, you've been in consulting.
I had my own startup as well.
You also had your own startup.
Exit, yeah.
So you've seen all the world. I think last year and this year, you've been selected amongst the top 10 individuals with the highest impact on the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Turkey. Congratulations for that.
It was a general poll from the startup co-founders. The incubator we did have touched a lot of people in Turkey, so maybe that helped a lot in ranking in that list.
But in your work, you're not only focused on Turkey, you're now actually moving yourself in a broader concept.
So the incubator is now having other co-founders from different regions of the world. From India to States, we have some participants.
Wow.
But you never know where the impact will finalize.
And in your role, you have established the Istanbul Technical University.
Çekirdek is seed in Turkish.
Startup incubator.
So it's usually seed, but in Turkish we call it çekirdek. It's a small thing you put in the soil.
Good. Can you tell me a bit about the traction of
We have actually on the slides.
You're going to report about it, yes.
Yeah, because that's one thing we can offer to the region, including Romanian startups. Cluj is a phenomena, but still we have to learn from Cluj. That's what I'm going to discuss.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will collaborate more.
So you're going to speaking about the new kind of like influence hotspots that we're going to see now in the region, Istanbul, Bucharest, and Vienna.
So Vienna is kind of an out of the geography place.
Okay.
I heard many people from Greece, Bulgaria, many startups go to at least imagine going to Vienna for scaling up.
It's like a stepping
for
stone.
finding their potential investors, finding their potential customers. So what I'm offering, maybe your town could be the next Vienna. And before going out or without moving elsewhere, we may flourish our own startup ecosystems in our own region.
As you know, I spent 11 years of my life in Vienna, so I'm very curious about your presentation.
Thank you.
And I also found, your term very interesting, like the new startup triangle.
Triangle, yeah. The research, there's this, in US, there's research triangle. Why don't we have startup triangle here in Balkans?
Exactly.
Should I sit or maybe I can use this?
The floor is yours, I guess, so that you have a good view on your slides. It will be better to be here.
Should I use both of them at the same time? Or can this be working?
Who is going to help us from the tech team? Yes.
This might be a little hard, even for a professor to. For us, it might be more complicated.
I thought that you're actually versed with that. I mean, you should be used to speaking on a cathedral. Is it working?
So before we move into, let me ask a small question.
So it's working? Okay.
Shall we? Yeah.
Okay,
great.
it's good.
Oh, it's even
let
better.
me liberate you from that.
So who is from Romania in the room, but not from Cluj? Ooh.
Okay.
So who is from Cluj, living in Cluj? Very few people. Oh, towards the back, it's more. Thank you. And who is not from Romania at all and and not speaker as well, and came for this event? Hello. So we have quite a mix here. Thank you for having these 4 floors of stairs coming up and meeting us today in this presentation. I try not to be boring because professors are known to be boring, especially in classes, so I will try to avoid that. So today I will talk about a potential social issue that, more or less everybody living in Southeast Europe is facing with the same problem, which is the population. So our countries, maybe not Turkey especially, but the rest of the Southeast Europe countries are losing their population for a number of reasons. So I have taken a sentence from Balkan Insights website. The Balkan countries are facing catastrophic depopulation with far-reaching social and political consequences, he says. And that's a correspondent from The Economist, as well as he's a fellow of Tim Judah. Actually, I read this a number of years before. Before that, I was not aware of this. Well, I have heard about it, but I didn't know the phenomenon was that big. So the Balkan countries, or let's say Southeast European countries, are losing their population, and it has great impact because you incur many of the social costs of educating people, infrastructure, health, and then they leave. Usually towards other European countries, towards West, or to United States. For many startups, it's a dream, going to San Francisco at some point of their startup journey. So we are losing our people. But after COVID, we also learned that we don't need to be going somewhere to be part of a larger vision or larger economy. Home working is more prevalent now after COVID. So without moving anywhere, living in your hometown, if it has good living conditions, you can actually participate a big startup, a big company. Maybe you can establish a big startup from your village as well. So COVID taught us this. But can we use this as a leverage to solve this depopulation problem? Please have a look at the Southeast European countries and how much they lose towards 2050. So the figures are their population right now and the median age. So the red ones have median age older than European Union. So Romania, Greece, Bulgaria, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Slovenia has larger median age, which means the problem will get even larger along the way because of the aging population. And so they're expected to get smaller towards 2050, which means the social problems may become bigger. And that's not only because population is getting older, the talent also immigrates towards other parts of Europe, and also for non-conventional industries, not only for tech, but in other industries, the local companies can barely cope with find talent for their own businesses. So if you are in a conventional construction industry or you have drivers for your trucks, etc., they have better job offers from other parts of Europe, so they leave. So how can we solve this problem? Usually problems of this size can only be solved by a scaling business model. The startups have the scaling advantage. If you have the right idea that fits the customer and the economy and the business model is correct, it may scale very fast. So maybe the scaling advantage of startups may help Balkan countries to solve this problem. And right now we're in Cluj. Cluj is an interesting phenomenon. If you look at the cities in these countries, all cities are losing population except Cluj. So this city has, an interesting phenomenon taking place. The startup economy, the tech employment, the very good universities the Cluj has, collectively create an ecosystem that actually sticks people with Cluj. And foreign people from across different countries actually come to Cluj instead of living there. So the same author, Tim Judah, in Balkan Insights said, if cities like Cluj could be replicated 1,000 times in the region, the situation would be very different. And the challenge is how we can replicate Cluj in different parts of different countries of the region. So this is a rather big challenge. So can we revive the area, the Southeast Europe, with technology and innovation? Can we integrate and grow them together? Because for our cities like Bucharest, Belgrade, Thessaloniki, Athens, these are not as big as the global startup attraction points. Usually ecosystems compete with one another with their size and wealth. And none of our cities, maybe including Istanbul as well, is not big enough to compete with these global power sources. So if we are to offer an option, against losing our talent towards global attraction centers, we have to collaborate. So rather than considering this region as one city, one Cluj, one Bucharest, one Istanbul, maybe we can integrate them to create a region of attraction so that, living in this area is nice. We all know that we love our cities, countries, etc. Yesterday we had a great excursion in the countryside of Cluj. But if we only can integrate our startup ecosystems, then we may create an attraction. Otherwise, individual cities may not have a sustainable future in providing an option for other startups. And when we call startup ecosystems, it's usually a complex phenomena. We all talk about ecosystems these days. What is a startup ecosystem? It's a very hard to answer question. What's an ecosystem? It has a mixture of education, human resources, support and networking functions, government interventions, supports, policies, as well as funding. So these actors and factors should talk with one another so that we have ecosystems there in place supporting startup phenomena. Not all cities we have in the region have their startup ecosystems. We have to establish them, flourish them, and also connect them with one another, and maybe follow Cluj as an example and how to create one. So the Balkans is already creating unicorns. This is not an exhaustive list. I just grabbed a number of unicorns from the region. We have them from Romania, Slovenia, Turkey, Greece, Croatia. These economies are creating they're able to create unicorns, but they're not as good as keeping them in the region as well. Many of them, after they became unicorn, they have this investment status, they live elsewhere. For instance, Insider, who started from Istanbul, is now in Singapore. Its headquarters is now in Singapore, and I know UiPath is in Boston now, if I'm not wrong. So that's a major problem. So that their economic impact, whether they can also impact the local environment, local development. So these countries have relatively weaker startup ecosystems. This data is from Global Entrepreneurship Index 2020. Numbers are not important, but 100% is the best. And if you compare with the best ecosystems across the world, a few of the entrants for some items we have near 100 items. So the green ones are the better, and yellow ones are medium, and the rest is relatively poor compared to other ecosystems. So that data is available on the internet. They compare over different dimensions for Global Entrepreneurship Index. So, for instance, universities are one ingredient. We know that Cluj has a number of universities. And if we check from topuniversities.com, the QS ranking, Romania has 11 top universities from the list in the top 1,200 top universities. Turkey has 9. I counted only the Marmara, the Balkan part of Turkey, not the entire Turkey. Greece, Croatia, Serbia. So these universities are creating graduates that supply talent to the industries. So we have this in place. And we have relatively urban population. So if we calculate the major cities of the region, the nearly 80 million people of the region, like 28 of them live in relatively urban parts of the region. So maybe we can create inclusive policies to start up ecosystems across different parts. How we can do that? We need to talk. We need to collaborate. The platforms like Recursive or platforms like SeedBlink, the previous presentation, these are good ways to make these local ecosystems collaborate. We need more of them. We need more Recursive, we need more SeedBlink, so that the startup co-founders as well as the investors start thinking across the region, not only in their village or not only for other parts of the world. So we have to communicate our education, communicate our human resources, so that we collectively support. And as we read from the previous data, every Balkan country has different strengths to bring to the table. So, for instance, Slovenia has a very strong skill set, risk acceptance culturally, process innovation, etc. So if you look at every country in the region has different strengths to bring in the table, so they may collaborate together to create a more stronger startup scene for the geography. So what can we bring as Turkey? Maybe we can bring Istanbul as your next scaling up market. So you can develop your startup in your, wherever you are in the Balkans, and you can, without moving else anywhere. So I'm not proposing anyone to move to Istanbul, but just by establishing a small presence without moving their team headquarters, startups from Cluj, startups from Romania or different regional countries can actually grow their startups in Istanbul. Istanbul has the size advantage. We may bring that to the table. No matter you are B2B or B2C, you may find customers easily. And my university, Istanbul Technical University, may bring you the soft landing. The Istanbul Technical University campus is like the office. I heard about the office building in Cluj, where many startup companies exist, or tech companies exist together. So ITU campus is like the office building in Istanbul. In our main campus, there is nearly more than 300 tech companies with nearly 10,000 engineers working on the campus. So we may provide you, if you are willing to grow your startup bases and acquire customers in Istanbul, you can always consult ITU, and we may provide you soft landing without moving your company to Istanbul. You don't need to do that. And Istanbul has this, flight advantage, we all know. So without moving anywhere else, you can use Istanbul as a stepping stone to grow your business elsewhere, go to meetings. So you don't need to go anywhere. Meetings are all on Zoom now. But still, if you want to go anywhere, like a conference like this, you can use the geographical advantage as well. So ITU is a good school. So, and we are open our arms are open to any startups. They want to grow their presence, grow their sales in Istanbul. And we have a number of startup incubation programs in place. We actually developed them in the last 10 years. So Çekirdek is the one she mentioned. It has a number of different stages. So this system collectively created 1/3 of every startup in Istanbul. So we had, our alumni is a few thousands, if you will. So many startups have been generated from the ITU system. These are the figures. It's established in 2012. And every year, this system is different because we say it never closes. Usually, incubators have a deadline. If you don't apply before the deadline, you are not considered for that year. We have changed that. So the incubator is open throughout the year. You can apply anytime you want, and within 1 week, you will stand up, do your pitch, and you might be allowed to enter the incubator. So we don't want you to come next year. So that's one of the innovations we did in the incubation scheme. That's why we could collaborate, we could accommodate more than 10,000 startup co-founders in a relatively small incubator space. So, and in the last year only, we had awarded with investors $38 million of seed stage investment for the startups outside the incubator. And this incubation system is now ranked as among the top 5 of all university incubators of the world. In Sweden, there is a ranking system called the UBI, University Business Incubators. They rank. So UK, Set Squared, Bath, Bristol, Exeter, they have the top incubator. And we actually share the second space with Ryerson in Canada, Politecnico di Milano, and Delft in Netherlands. So this is not to sell you Çekirdek, but this is showcases that ITÜ knows startup community. So if you come to get support from Istanbul Technical University, we speak the same language. So you will find an ecosystem, a group of co-founders similar to you on campus. So you may find a potential partner for your business as well to grow. Also, we have scale-up incubator as well. So ITÜ Magnet is a secondary incubation space where recently more than 400 co-founders were residing for 80 scale-up incubators. These are VC-grade startups looking for round A type investment. And also we have an international acceleration program. We bring startups at certain scale to San Francisco. Not to move them. We don't want them to move to US for good, but we establish a network of collaborators in US. We have a lot of mentors there, and until so far we have actually soft landed more than 200 startups into US along different sessions, and now more than 100 startups were able to stick with US while they generate their software in Turkey or wherever they are. So you can use, for instance, Innogate or Itugate to keep your startup here and launch your footprint in US and start selling your software, hardware into the US market. Since 2014, we tried it a few times, and we think we cracked the code a little bit. So Istanbul could be your scaling up location before you move globally, and it's not that far. I mean, if you take a plane, it's just 1 hour, 1.5 hours flight from Cluj airport. So let's scale in Istanbul and don't move anywhere else, because we have to grow our startup ecosystems in the region. Otherwise, in the next 20, 30 years, there will be nobody left in this part of the world, or maybe a few older people. So we have to keep our environment, keep our countries part of the global startup arena. So you're also welcome, Istanbul, for tourism as well. So we became like a touristic destination. Every week I'm actually making guided tours to our incubators and space. So if you happen to come Istanbul, just send me an email. I would love to see you, show you around. Also, if you have a potential client, we can establish connection and find you a meeting so that you can sell your products and services to Istanbul clients. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Deniz.
That's my cause for this meeting.
Thank you, Deniz. That has been actually quite insightful. I never thought of the region in this way. Mm-hmm. I know that the founders of BioNTech have a Turkish background, so thank you for bringing that people on earth. Before you leave, I wanted also to check for questions maybe in the audience. Not now. Then I have one question, because you were speaking about having this triangle, but then you focused a lot on Istanbul. How can we make this triangle actually work a bit better? What kind of policies would you say that we should, have, let's say, between cities of Istanbul and cities of Cluj, or I don't know, Sofia and Cluj?
I think Cluj always is a corner of this triangle. Mm-hmm. Istanbul can be because of its population mass or the economic scale, because it's nice to have so many companies and so many people in one area, so that it's easier to sell. Okay. So any other city may have different talents, different startups. So they may, for instance, you may have a different incubator. You may have a very good university. You may have a different investors, for example. So all these local resources can be brought to table, and we can consider the entire region as so that's the idea of Europe, by the way, the free mobility of capital and the workforce. Yes. But now it's working against us. Why? Because that mobility brings regional talent towards the Western European countries. True. So how can we create a talent environment so that it brings them back, as well as create an alternative attraction for other people to come and join, to come and have the region? I would look forward to your next presentation, where I'm going to ask you maybe to do like a matrix of, the strengths of that each of these cities can actually bring to the table, and maybe we can explore then the ways to learn from each other. That's actually a research we can all do together, because I know my part of the geography, but if someone is eager to take the challenge, we can join forces and create a task force so that we discuss how these countries can collectively grow. Count me in for Sofia. Okay, let's use the Tech-Sylvania platform to do that. Thank you, Deniz. Thank you for listening. Big applause again for him.